All right, let's dive into what we saw with Michigan against Maryland. A dominant 45 to 20 road win that wasn't as close as the final score suggested, and I realize I'm saying that after a 25-point win. As somebody who covers the Big 10, I've watched this conference all season long. There are games where you just have to absolutely grind it out. They say, I mean, Michigan was just in one against Northwestern last week, but I have to say the Wolverines put on a clinic in College Park. They didn't punt once in this game. They converted on 12 of 14 third downs and racked up 443 total yards while holding Maryland to just 71 on the ground. Bryce Underwood looked sharp, going 16 of 23 for 215 yards and two touchdown passes, no picks, which was huge for the freshman. Bryson Kizadal stepping in as the third string back, getting the start in this one, rushed for 100 yards and three scores, showing that Michigan's run game depth is very real, and it doesn't always matter who they have out there. But Andrew Marsh was electric again with five catches for 76 yards and a touchdown, plus some big returns. Defensively, they pressured Malik Washington all day, sacking him three times and snagging an interception from Mason Curtis that flipped the momentum early. But before we get any further, please do like and subscribe to the Big Ten Huddle. Help us create more content for the Michigan Wolverines by letting us know you are watching, as we love to make videos about every Big Ten team. But for sure, we will be catering to the teams that show us the most love. So let's also get back to the game now because we have a lot to talk about here. Honestly, this game felt like a tune-up and now all eyes are on next week's showdown against Ohio State. Michigan moves to 9-2 on the season, 7-1 in the conference in the Big Ten, and they're heading into the game with some serious swagger. Look, I've covered this rivalry for years. If anyone out there is trying to call this a foregone conclusion for the Buckeyes, that they're definitely going to win, who are 11-0, the number one team in the country, they are absolutely kidding themselves. Last year should have been the greatest example of anybody can win this game every single year. You see, Ohio State's talented, no doubt. There's no doubt they are one of the most, if not the most talented teams in the nation. But Michigan has multiple paths to make this a fight, and history tells us this matchup defies the odds more often than not. So first off, let's talk about Michigan's ground game, right? This is one of the biggest talking points you have to talk about when you get into this matchup. It's their bread and butter. It's peaking even without top backs right now. They just pounded out 228 yards against Maryland without their two top backs, and Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall, who were sidelined. Casdell, Jasper Parker, Micah Kapana, and Thomas O'Meara all contributed, averaging 4.6 yards per carry with count them, four rushing touchdowns. Ohio State's run defense is stout. There's no doubt. They've allowed under 100 yards per game, but we have we have seen what happens against this physical downhill rushing style of Michigan. All it takes is a big run. All it takes is a big run here, there, whatever you need. And Michigan always seems to get, at least the past few years, has always seemed to get what they need. The Wolverines have won the rushing battle in each of the last four meetings, and it's no coincidence why. The team that controls the line of scrimmage in this game usually walks away with the W. If Michigan can establish the run early, force Ohio State into predictable passing situations, and wear down that front seven, they could dictate the tempo and keep this at a low scoring slugfest, just like last year when they got that 13-10 grinded out win. And don't sleep on the passing game improvements, right? Right when it matters too. Underwood was turnover free in his last outing against Maryland, and that's a Maryland team that gets a lot of interceptions. Does a really good job of turning the quarterback over. But Bryce Underwood is getting better. He's now tied Chad Henne's record for the most 200-yard or more passing games by a freshman starter at Michigan with seven. Against Maryland, he spread the ball around. Marsh is emerging as a star with more receiving yards since week 7 than any Big Ten wideout, and the tight ends like Marlon Klein and Zach Marshall combined for 67 yards on 5 grabs. Donovan McCauley chipped in, had a 22-yard touchdown screen pass as well. Look, Ohio State secondary, again, It's stout, it's elite, it's great. But if Michigan's offensive line, which held up decently against Maryland's pass rush, excuse me, gives Underwood time, he can find the open guys and get the ball to them with his incredible arm talent. Remember, Ohio State's been vulnerable to big plays at times, not all the time, but at times this season, and Michigan's youth on offense means they are a bit unpredictable. A few chunk plays could open up the run game enough and see even one or two big plays to get them into the end zone. Defensively, Michigan's got the tools to disrupt Ohio State's rhythm. They generated 5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks against Maryland, with guys like Jayshon Barham, Derrick Moore getting into the QB. Ohio State's Julian Saint is a Heisman contender for a reason, but he is still young too. And the Buckeyes offense might be dinged up with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, who sat out of this last game, and Brandon Ennis, he even hurt his shoulder in the game as well. That's their 3 starting wide receivers. Even if they're back, Michigan's secondary, led by Zeke Berry and J.R. Hill, can cover those receivers like they did last year. Is it going to be perfect? No. You just have to cover them enough to make it difficult. The key here is pressuring Sayin without blitzing everyone. Michigan's front 4 needs to win one-on-ones like they did against Washington, who was hurried into 13 of 39 passing. Ohio State hasn't been tested by elite pass rushers very much this season. Texas was supposed to have dudes, but even in that one game, it was the first game of the season. Are we really going to keep going back to the first game of the season? Penn State was a shell of themselves. Illinois has been a disappointment this season, and Anthony Smith at Minnesota, he's just not athletic enough to go up against these Ohio State guys and stuff. So the rivalry kind of throws logic just out the window. Michigan was banged up last year, missing stars like Will Johnson and Colson Loveland. Yet they gutted out a win as underdogs. The Wolverines are battle tested from losses to ranked teams on the road like USC, from losses against ranked teams on the road like USC and Oklahoma, learning from a close game where they absolutely dominated Northwestern and just had 5 turnovers that really kind of kept Northwestern in it. Michigan's all about imposing their will, but if they keep it close until the fourth quarter, anything can happen, as we've seen multiple times in this rivalry. Turnovers, special teams flips, or just pure grit getting their team the win. Sharon's Moore crew is healthy enough when it counts, and they're motivated. Derrick Moore just had one of his best games of the season versus Maryland, and Sharon Moore is in fact 2-0 versus Ryan Day. So bottom line, Michigan can challenge Ohio State by dominating the trenches the most, mixing in timely passing and capitalizing any Buckeye rust from easy wins. Anyone penciling in a Buckeye blowout is just ignoring this Michigan team, plus the hatred, the history, and the home field advantage. This could be another classic, and Michigan's got every chance to extend their streak to 5. Can't wait to see it unfold. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would love to hear what you have to say. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.